Hey, I'm Ben Silverio.
I'm Lavender Vyxn.
And I'm Ansel Burch.
And it's
Time to party!
Da-da-da-da.
This episode was recorded on October 23rd, 2023. We are not doctors, we don't give medical advice. Please drink responsibly.
Hello, party people.
We used to play that song in my high school band.
Oh, yeah? What did you play again? What instrument?
Clarinet.
Do you still have it?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Can
We
you
are
still play?
preparing to move, and I just found it. I cannot.
Oh.
I can make it make noise. Can I make it make music? No, I cannot.
You should try to cover our
Do I
theme
remember
song.
what any of the buttons do? Probably not.
Can I make
don't
it
think
make
so.
music?
But you should relearn it so you can play the Time to Party theme song.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Sounds like a very good use of my time.
Why not, Ansel? Commitment to the bit.
I'm trying to learn the guitar, so I'll learn it on that. I'll do that.
We already have it on guitar. That's just a regular song.
That's fair. That is already there. I could overlay myself playing it badly on clarinet. There we go. Coming up at some point in the future.
I love it. Or the past, depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Yes, party people, we are back, and we are better than ever, maybe. Kind of.
Because Lavender's here.
Because Lavender's here. The amazing,
Never had that before.
the wonderful Lavender Vyxn is joining us for the first time this month. Hi, Lavender.
Hello. I'm having the best
Thanks for
time.
joining us.
This is so much fun. You guys are great. I love talking about movies. I'm a performer here in Chicago. I mainly do burlesque, but I have been like a dancer of all sorts for many years in this city. I got to know my buddy Ben here. We used to do every week we would do a double feature and hang out and watch movies, and I think that's a great thing.
That's a very special tradition. And I love that you did it so consistently.
It is a beautiful thing. Friendship. Rainbow. Lavender is very modest and humble because, you know, you're an award-winning pole
You were
performer.
gonna say that. Yes. Thank you.
Literally won awards. So
We haven't even mentioned pole. Not even once.
No. Yeah, I have, like, among many, eras of my dance career, I got into I was doing burlesque here in the city and doing like a lot of gig stuff that, maybe like 3-month rehearsal periods for like one weekend show, and it just was really taxing for me and I wasn't getting a lot of work, so I switched to burlesque, and through that found pole dancing and working as a stripper in a club, and so I do that pretty much full time now. And
Nice.
yes, I incorporate pole into like my burlesque now pretty often. So I guess what I love to do is take something very like classic or I don't know, 50s related or something kind of, of a certain era, and then, putting some Cardi B in there or, taking my own spin on it. So,
I mean, one production that you were just in involved Twilight, correct?
correct. I worked with, it was such a cool event. I worked with some people from my past, actually. So like people that I've done modern dance with, and like other people so the organizers are two like contemporary dancers, but who have worked with this group called the Hail Marys, who was in this competition that Ben is referencing that I did win. It was at Untitled Supper Club here in the city. There was a call for new artists, and so the Hail Marys were top 3, and I took the crown on that one.
Wow.
So yeah, they hit me up and they said, "Hey, are you available? Would you like to do this Twilight parody show, and it just closed this last weekend. And I was a part of a poll trio with. So if you watch the original Twilight movie, I played James, who is the bad guy. And so it was a cool gender bendy, very like queer production of Twilight. It was highly successful, very fun. The dancing in it was very like high caliber, very, very talented dancers. And we would love to do this again sometime. So I think a year from today will probably be more Twilight related content on my page. So.
Oh, well, I look forward to it.
Yeah, listeners, you should really try hard to see Lavender perform.
That was excellent. With the finger guns.
Earlier?
Pleased to have been in the room for it.
He had a real visual impact with that, with the finger guns.
It's true.
Podcast didn't see.
They know. They can feel it.
They can feel the finger guns.
They can vibe with it now.
Feel the finger guns is a new tagline as well.
Oh, wow. Lavender Vyxn, feel the finger guns.
Feel the finger guns.
Feel the finger guns.
That's your new t-shirt.
Yes. Merch.
Earlier today, Hell in a Handbasket was talking about Poker Face for something, and I started making
the Gaga song.
Yeah, and then I started making like playing cards jokes, and I was like, "Oh, so you're saying you're going crazy eights, and you just want to fold today?" My heart and club and spades and diamonds are with you.
Oh dear, how do we get out of... Oh, Ben, hey, what movie did we watch?
Lavender Vyxn is joining us this month to talk about the new Amazon Prime Video movie Totally Killer from Nahnatchka Khan, who you may know from Fresh Off the Boat and Young Rock. They are very funny, creator. So to see them do this movie after doing Always Be My Maybe and then those sitcoms, such a great progression for their career. But yeah, in this episode, we're gonna give you our review of the movie. But before we get started, let's take a look at the synopsis from our friends at Rotten Tomatoes. 35 years after the shocking murder of 3 teens, the infamous Sweet 16 killer returns on Halloween night to claim a 4th victim. 17-year-old Jamie ignores her overprotective mom's warning and comes face to face with a masked maniac. And on the run for her life, accidentally travels back to 1987, the year of the original killings. Forced to navigate the unfamiliar and outrageous culture of the 1980s, Jamie teams up with her teen mom to take down the killer once and for all before she's stuck in the past forever. Whoa, spooky.
It's a much more in-depth synopsis than IMDb gave us.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes understood the assignment. IMDb got a passing grade.
Yeah.
So I mean, for starters, Lavender, did you like the movie?
I really enjoyed this movie. It was so much fun. Equally, I was talking to Ansel about this. I forgot to take notes. I was like just enjoying it. I think that wasn't making fun of itself. It definitely like referenced a lot of these like time travel movies. And also kind of carved its own place in it. It was just like, all right, we get it. We're going to give you a character that's coming after you. This masked creature man is coming after you, and you got to figure it out. And I like the mystery element. I like being like, what's next? I was on the, edge of my seat the whole time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Back to the Future, Hot Tub Time Machine, and Scooby-Doo. you know, like from the time travel mechanics from Back to the Future, and then they kind of like riffed on it, and then the unconventional time machine, you know, from Hot Tub Time Machine. Also, they went back to the 80s and met their younger selves, you know, or acted as their younger selves, I guess. But then Scooby Doo, that mystery element of like, who is this killer? You know, that was all very woven together very well. Ansel, this movie puts podcasting in a specific light. How did you feel
It does indeed.
about the very specific podcast about this town and killer and the things that happen to those characters involved with the podcast? I guess we can talk about spoilers at this point now because
Yeah, this is the review.
We're getting into it.
Yeah, we're all full spoilers ahead. If you needed a warning, well, here that's what you got. This is what you get.
That's what this is.
I have been in podcasting for a shocking amount of time. Every time I think about it, I am myself shocked. And I gotta say, I think they nailed it. And they nailed it for two reasons. One is like the kind of mindset that a podcaster needs to have going in is to take themselves seriously in hopes that their podcast takes off and that their listenership pays attention. And so like the full faced intentionality that we get from the podcaster character is right on the money. He sees himself as a journalist. He has to think of himself as a journalist to do the job well. And if people are coming to the town in the masks to take his tours, then he's doing fine as a podcast. Like that's pretty successful if you're able to sell tours to your podunk town based upon the podcast you've been running. And obviously he doesn't want to lose that, and so on and so forth. There's the motive. But I think there's also a big conversation going on around... I don't think there is a big conversation going on around the sort of exploitative quality of all of these true crime podcasts that are out there, and how they sensationalize the real human tragedy of the situation and don't fully take into account the emotions of the people involved and the ways that the attention that they're bringing might negatively impact the people who are living those lives, in a way that professional journalists would hopefully know better than to do. Now, is that to say that professional journalists aren't also doing that? No. Look at Dateline.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of professional journalists sensationalizing murders for the cash dollars. And maybe that's the bigger question, is like, how do we want to cover murders in the future? How does a civilized society treat this fascination that we have with people getting murdered? And how do we either sate that desire or prove our better selves through it? But all that being said, I think it's a very accurate and reasonable portrayal of that genre of podcasting. As well as, again, like, that's a podcaster who is objectively doing well, who does not see himself as doing well and is not being respected for it. So, like, I don't know. I felt seen enough in that. Like, that feels right.
Well, I hope that our podcast isn't driving you to commit murder.
Not so far.
Yeah, not yet. Like, no
that
promises.
You know of.
Hey, I've been gone for a few months. I don't know what people have been up to, right?
Yeah, it's Chicago's a wild place, man.
So let's talk about the main character, Jamie. She's played by the phenomenal Kiernan Shipka. Have either of you consumed any of her other work? before this.
Yeah, I mean, she was in that Sabrina show. I think that was like the first thing that caught my. I was like, yes, I've seen that. Like, she was so good in that, and she's so much older now. Like, yes, people age. Wow, crazy. I think that she has like the most, like she has the most expressive face, and I am so excited to see what she does, you know, in the future as well. Very good actress.
Absolutely. She has a very commanding presence on screen, and she can definitely hang with the best of them, I think. And, you know, her mom in the movie is played by two phenomenal actors. First, the older version of her mom is, oh my God, I was going to say Claire Dunphy. Yeah, I mean, she is Claire Dunphy, but the actress's name is Julie Bowen. Veteran performer, has been, you know, killing it for a long time, but I know that most people will know her from Modern Family, and her comedic chops are just like next level these days. Like, she's top tier talent. But on the flip side, the younger version of Jamie's mom is played by Olivia Holt, former, well, I guess I could say former at this point since the show is canceled, but former Marvel superhero Olivia Holt. She was in Cloak and Dagger, and that was the first time that I saw her. And then that crossed over into Runaways, which are two very underrated Marvel Cinematic Universe shows that people don't talk about enough, and I highly recommend checking those out. But also, more recently, she was in Cruel Summer, which was this great freeform show. And, you know, she's definitely getting more opportunities because she's earned them. You know, she's in our first episode, we were talking about like the Brat Pack and this, like, you know, this crop of young actors who are just killing the game, right? And I feel like Kiernan Shipka and Olivia Holt are among them. You know, they really shine in this movie, especially as mother-daughter. You know, once they realize that they're mother and daughter. But yeah, they're super fun. Olivia Holt's character is part of the group The Mollies. And in our first episode, we talk about how we want you to take a shot out of respect from Molly Ringwald. And that's because of this group. They are all like the popular girls, you know, and they're all dressed like different Molly Ringwald characters. And I think that's a really fun touch, right? Like,
what a very specific choice to make.
Absolutely. It reminded me a lot of Never Been Kissed.
Classic.
Because if you recall, yeah, remember those popular girls where one of them was Jessica Alba, and they were all different Barbies.
I'm Disco Barbie. Yeah.
Man, talk about movies that haven't aged well in some instances. Because, like, I mean, we were talking about Ducky and Pretty in Pink in episode 1, but I mean, Never Been Kissed is kind of a creepy premise now too, right? Because, like, the teacher,
yeah,
basically falls in love with his student.
Yeah.
Even though she's not really a student, she's a journalist, but to him, she's a student.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Things that don't age well.
Yeah. And I mean,
most of the 80s.
True. 80s and the 90s.
And the 70s.
Sure.
Oh, the 60s had some rough. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I love 13 Going on 30 that also had that, like, girl. They always had the side ponytail. And I feel like they had a name to their group too.
That also goes back to the Heathers.
Yes.
You know,
iconic movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Six Chicks.
The Six Chicks.
There it is.
The Six Chicks. There can't be a seventh six chick.
Yep, that was the whole gag.
That's the whole
wasn't
gag.
it?
But
And then Tom Tom ruined everything.
Tom Tom. Remember when, as millennials, you wanted to be 30, flirty, and thriving, and we didn't get any of that?
oh, now I'm just in pain. My back hurts. and get me off my feet.
Sad, broken, aware of my existential crisis.
Yeah, that's what the merch should actually say.
Like I'm fully prepared for my 40s to be my prime, because 30s is just hurting. It is.
It's gotta be, right? Our 40s have to be our prime. We get a prime, right? Somebody promised me a prime.
I turned 30.
I know, right?
I turned 30 and then the day after was just like, oh, you're just gonna have back problems now.
Oh, the day I turned 30, I had back pain.
Oh,
I was like, oh, it happens that quick?
Yep. The check engine light comes on, and it's all downhill from there.
oh yeah.
Sometimes I see these Instagram influencers who like come to fitness late in life, and I'm just like, oh, maybe I'm one of those people. And then I'm just like, when am I ever motivated to do something active?
Yeah.
Not since Pokemon Go have I been so motivated to go walking.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You
like
need someone to trick you into going outside for a walk. Maybe yeah.
I'm convinced that if I were to get a Disneyland annual pass, that would be tricking me into like being more active, because I will gladly walk around a Disney park from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. all day, just on my feet and drinking overpriced drinks and eating delicious overpriced snacks. But yeah, 20,000 steps each visit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That is wild.
Like, it's got to balance out somewhere, right?
Yeah. I took my partner and we did a ghost tour around my neighborhood, and it was this podcast that it's two guys, and one of them lives in like New Orleans now. And of course, like my partner is in the theater and like has done a lot of things in theater and TV and movies, and they of course knew both of them from like theater days, and I'm just like used to it at this point. But yeah, we walked like 10 miles that day. It was crazy, something like that.
Woof.
It was
10 miles.
Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was a lot. Yeah, it was great. It was so cool to hear about different like buildings. Like there was buildings that were made from the like Prohibition era, and so there's like tavern, like there's hidden taverns like below the floorboards when Prohibition was going on, like in Chicago. It's like neat. I'm like, I want to see it, and I want to say hi to a ghost that comes and drinks at the bar.
Well, good news. Chicago's got a lot of that.
Apparently it's a very haunted city.
Even the dead don't want to leave.
No.
Always coming back.
Not me, ever. No, I'm just kidding. Because I got to see you guys.
Yeah. You'll be back, Ben.
Or you could all just
kidding.
Y'all could just come here. It's,
Mm-hmm. Every time I talk to Ben, it's like, so when are you coming out? I have been talking to a lot of people from LA. Like I heard about that Hollywood Cemetery event. Not through you, through someone else. Just like there was a customer at the club I work at, and like he was from LA, and I just like I spent a good like hour and a half just talking to him about like different attractions around LA that he liked, and I'm making like mental notes about it. Like I have learned so much about our dear country just by talking to random men in strip clubs. I have like a roster in my head of things to do at any given city at any given time.
Love it. Got to start putting that to good use.
Yeah, do you write it down? Like make a Google map that people can use or something?
Yeah, it'll be like that one Elizabethtown is about, it's like they go like she's like she's a woman who travels, so she makes this map for him to follow back to like he goes to Elizabethtown, but then he meets up with her at this other random place, and that's how the movie ends. Spoiler alert. Like she creates this like book of places, like as you travel, here's a mixtape. Remember a mixtape? You put that in your car, and like
what a time.
Roll the windows down at this point because you can smell like the fudge through this town and blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, that's That's what I wanted to be when I was in high school. I was like, I want to be that cool. I want to make a mixtape and a road trip map for someone.
You still can.
Yes,
There's
still
still
good.
time.
But I always come back to Chicago.
You have
it's
the
true.
skills.
As much as I travel, I always come back, and so do the ghosts.
You know, speaking of really like haunted cities, New Orleans was just like
yeah.
the second you step in there and you feel the vibes of all the past inhabitants of that city. I remember going on a walking ghost tour there, but it was also a pub crawl. So we were drinking while learning about all of the ghosts and ghastly murders that happened and crimes that happened throughout the city. All the pirates. So many pirates.
So many pirates.
A shocking number of pirates.
One of the oldest bars in America is Lafitte's, which was a regular pirate hangout. Highly recommend it if you're in New Orleans. So many good times in New Orleans. Anyway. Like we've mentioned, we were just so entertained by Totally Killer that it was hard to make notes because, you know, I think part of that is that this is a throwback in a way, not just because of like the movie going back to the 80s, not just, you know, like replicating the classic slasher time travel tropes and things like that, but the runtime was reminiscent of a bygone era, because this movie was like just over 90 minutes, right? And it was Lavender who actually said it was like a movie of bits. So I'm wondering, what were some of your favorite bits from the movie?
Favorite bits?
It's a very good question.
I think one of my favorite scenes was this like dodgeball scene. Just because they went so hard. Like they choreographed that dodgeball scene. They're like, okay, we're going to get into a studio and like this person's going to dodge this direction while the other one, it was so intense for no apparent reason, other than just the delight of the trauma that comes from dodgeball from our past.
I mean, what a great way to introduce her mom, Jamie's mom, as a teenager, than getting pegged in the face by a dodgeball from her mom. But
Her
also
utter disregard for human life put on display.
Right. But Jamie's reaction to dodgeball also was like, "What? We're doing what?" And I'm like, "Do kids not play dodgeball anymore?"
I had the same response.
It was so funny because she clearly was so athletic, you know, like her character had like been in like self-defense classes because her mom put her in these self-defense classes. So I like her like utter just like rejection of any kind of sports or activities was really funny to me, because I'm just like, I looked forward to dodgeball when I was a kid. Like when I was like, yeah, dodgeball day. Because I don't know about you guys, but like we did archery, we did like, I don't know, we did like flag football, which was always my least favorite because I really didn't care for it. It was like just a chance for like a lot of the guys to be like flexing and doing, you know, and I was just pulling up grass or whatever, sitting down. But dodgeball was my favorite.
For me, it was dodgeball or floor hockey. Where we would like sit on the little squares on wheels and with a tiny hockey stick.
Oh yeah,
forgot about that.
Yeah, and then somehow we managed to talk our gym teacher into letting us play knockout like every other class. Like it was just an excuse to hang around the gym for a period, basically.
Right.
I'm just now having a flashback and remembering that I had one gym teacher who continually came up with new iterations of dodgeball that involved like building forts out of the gym mats and having like different positions. Like you could be a medic, and you'd have to like run out from behind the fort to go get your downed dodgeball player.
Oh.
And it's just now occurring to me that, like, man, that person really put in a lot of effort that I did not give a fuck about as a kid.
Yeah, right.
I wonder where that gym teacher is now.
Maybe an actual medic.
Maybe. Or a game master.
Yeah,
maybe a game. Yeah,
very
like
DM vibes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my god. I was told about a Frasier fantasy game earlier today, and I made the joke, I hope that instead of a game master, it's a cork master, and apparently that was too deep a cut of a Frasier reference. Yeah, you know, full of those. One of my favorite bits was when they were talking about one of the Mollies just giving blowjobs in the House of Mirrors. Mm-hmm. And the way that they...
That was her comfort. Was like,
yeah, exactly.
I'm just going in to give a blowjob.
But the way that they phrased it, just like I had to write it down. They said, you know, casual beej in the dollhouse of horrors.
Yes. Casual
beej.
A beej. I'll never look at a Bichon Frise the same way again.
Just, I don't know, something about the way that these kids talked, like, in the 80s, and, like, even Jamie, you know, they all had, like, some great, like, slang vernacular, you know?
Trying to remember some.
When Pam was asking Jamie about the future, she brings up Terminator. And she was just like, oh, did the robots, you know, take over?
Oh, yeah. Is this what happens?
And Jamie's like, no, you know, we just kind of become dependent on them and make us dance, like, through, basically she was talking about TikTok, and Pam was like, they use dance against us?
They use dance against us? Yeah.
So good.
God, that was so funny. Yeah, just little moments like that were just, like, super enjoyable. I loved the reference to, like, they were watching RoboCop. It was that one scene from RoboCop that, like, we all remember. Just this, like, that one guy showed up to work that day, and he died of many deaths in that, you know, boardroom that day. Yes.
He died for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. Another thing that I wanted to note, you know, like, because this movie is a mashup of, like, horror and, like, teen movies and time travel movies, like, it really takes a lot of tropes from all of those genres. But one of my favorite tropes of the teen movie is the epilogue, like, that shows pictures and what they're up to. You know, like, at the end of Animal House, like, this person became a senator and things like that, nice. You know? And they did that here, but instead of just, like, making it generic, it was the book that Lauren gave to Jamie at the end. You know, Amelia's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To catch her up on all of the things that changed in the timeline. And I thought that was a very nice touch, while also giving a lot of, like, really cool closure and a lot of, like, a fun... It was like leaving the theater happy, you know? Like, it was a fun moment, especially when she found out that her name's not Jamie.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
her brother's name is Jamie.
So good. And I like that her time travel had consequences, but at no point was that not the goal, right? It's not like a lot of other time travel movies where they're like, try desperately not to don't touch anything. The butterfly effect will ruin everything. Only change the one thing. This one was like, no, she's going to tell everybody everything, and just when she gets to the future, hopefully it's still okay.
Yeah, they tell her, like, they're like, oh, your phone's gonna die, because her phone was a big part of, like, her getting back to the future. And so she's like, she's like, okay, well, what if I don't make it to this place at this time before my battery dies? She goes, oh, well, we have a chemistry test on Monday, so study. They were like, yeah, you don't die. You don't just like disappear, you know? And I feel like I think it was a reference to like Back to the Future, because he starts to like, you know, disappear in the movie. But like, she's like, no, you just live here now. Like, you just exist. You know, you don't have a birthing story, essentially. You don't have any parents.
Yeah. You experience time travel the old-fashioned way.
1 second per second.
Exactly.
Well, and the other threat was, if you fuck this up and you go back to your time, no one will know who you are because you don't exist there.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Mm-hmm.
You did briefly touch on the time travel mechanics. Now, the cell phone did become a very integral part to it because of the GPS. How did y'all feel about their explanation of the method of time travel? Like, did it all make sense? Did you question it at any points? Was it kind of like, oh, is this just technobabble? What were your thoughts?
I thought it was just like funny how there's the token like nerd who like was like, oh, like, how much have you read about quantum physics? Oh, no, nothing? Okay, moving on. So it's like we are her in that moment. We are being explained that we are dumb, we don't know, and that's okay. I'm like, I love just being like, okay, let's move the story forward. I am, you know, breaking that fourth wall. I'm there with you, you know. Suspend disbelief here and just like follow it.
In a similar way, I thought that the time machine itself was giving us that same message. Like, the time machine was like LED rope light and a photo booth and some like glass shit, and that was it. Aside from the control panel, there was nothing that made it look like an actual time machine was happening. It was just like blinky lights in the thing, and I think it was brilliant to do it in that way, so that we all went, okay, so that's your time machine, cool. There's not more to learn here. Keep your brain moving on to the story. That's
and they
how
also
she did it is not what this is about.
Right. And when they did talk about how she did it, they made it a point to be like, no, it doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside. It's what's on the inside that makes time travel possible. You know, because like in the end, Amelia like remakes the time machine from the present, right? But she makes it with a video game cabinet. Like, I want to say it was like a Time Crisis type of video game cabinet, you know? But
I didn't write it down, but probably.
Yeah. I don't remember which game it was, but, you know, it's old school arcades, you know? But, yeah, it's not like it's a DeLorean or a phone booth or a police box, you know? I don't think that the time machine is going to become iconic like these other time machines, but it works in a very similar fashion to H.G. Wells' time machine and Dr. Farnsworth's time machine from Futurama, you know? It's just stationary in this one spot, and time kind of moves around you. So I thought that was an interesting approach, and it served the story well, for sure.
The graphics of like how, like, yes, it was like the actual time machine itself was really kitschy, and like you could see the LED lights in there and stuff like that. But the way that they showed the actual time travel part was very, I was like, that is so cool. Like, they kind of like pulled these sections apart, and like they didn't warp her in any way. She just kind of stayed as she was. Yeah. And there's this like kind of ongoing thing with like her jacket, you know, it's her mom's jacket, and she's wearing it because it's like cool. And it's like this hand-me-down, and then she fits right in the 80s, you know, by wearing this like vintage jacket. So I think they did what they could with what we have knowledge of time travel, and like, you know, I thought they did a great job.
The purpose of this podcast is to talk about the time travel elements of movies, but this is also a horror movie. And I mean, I'm not a super horror fanatic or anything, but like, did you find it to be was it adequate as a horror movie as well as a time travel movie?
I think so. I think that I think if you like slasher films, I think you will find this to be enjoyable. Like in 2023, making something, in the light of like Game of Thrones, that's super super gory. I think that they really did. They call these murders the Sweet 16 killings because they're 16, but also that they've been stabbed 16 times. And they really do go in and show pretty much the length of those stabbings. And so you get a lot. I remember like that very first scene with her mom. And I was like, damn, and I like cracked up when she's like, I've been preparing for this since I was 16, like prepared to be murdered around every corner. And she pulls this like shelf apart and there's like a hidden gun in this compartment. I was like, go off, like let's go.
And mace taped under the coffee table. And
yes. Yeah. And she so I think that there was something to say about that too, of just like powerful women like taking back, being like, no, I'm gonna fight to the bitter fucking end, and I think there's something to be enjoyed if you like slasher films. I think also there is this kind of like really it's like beloved of this like 80s slasher film, right? Like I feel like a lot of people really have either very strong opinions or they're willing to go down this ride of what an 80s slasher film means and the formula that it takes. And so I think making a movie like this in 2023, it was like, all right, they know what they're dealing with. They accepted the challenge ahead of them, and I think it holds up in a lot of ways. But also, if you're like me, who I'm a little queasy when it comes to a lot of gore, and I could handle it. I was like, it's okay because we had those moments of being like, yeah, you're fucking badass. You're not gonna just lay down and take it. You're gonna like fight back, So
it almost felt like not. Definitely not a Disney Channel original movie, but like a Nickelodeon original movie, where it like upped a bit, but then, with cursing and sex and casual beaches, like it was almost like revisiting that era of like American Pie, but with like not as creepy connotations, like not dudes just being creepers. Even though I mentioned this before about how Jamie was just pointing out everything that was problematic, but it wasn't like an overdone joke. Like it was just like hey, things have evolved, things have changed, and this is how maybe you should reconsider this thing. Like it was done in a way that it didn't really beat you over the head with it, so it didn't become tiresome.
Yeah.
I would say that's one of the big compliments I would give to this movie, among many others. But they showed a rare element of self-restraint. And you were talking earlier about Hot Tub Time Machine, and I think that where Hot Tub Time Machine went completely gonzo with their like, we're in the 80s now! Whoa! Look at the size of the cell phones. Quick, what color is Michael Jackson? Those, 80s jokes that were like a good third of the film. This movie walked towards that line enough to give us the joke without beating it over the head. And I think they did a similar thing with the gore. They showed just enough restraint that it was like, yes, this is a slasher film. We're going to stab them 16 times. Here's the fight scene. There's lots of blood. We're not going to cut away. We're going to do extended choreography scenes, and you're going to love it because we are showing restraint in all these other regards. So yeah, I think that was really, really well done on their part.
Yeah, and yet there is still room for Randall Park to make the joke of, I hate time travel movies.
I'm surprised he didn't look straight into the camera for that.
I know, right?
There's probably a take of him doing it. I would also love to talk a little bit more about the characters of Amelia and Lauren, because I think that I think it's sad that they didn't get more screen time, because arguably, I mean, aside from our person doing the travel being Jamie, the hero of the movie, or heroes of the movie, in many regards, should be the team of Amelia and Lauren across time, building time machines, sending this girl back and forth, saving the day, interpreting the changes. You know, the two of them really did carry all of the mechanics of the film. And I just wanted to get your opinions on the two of them and their arc.
Hey, you know, women of color constantly get the short end of the stick when it comes to being the hero, right? Like, there's always that knight in shining armor that ends up being a white person.
The white savior thing, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. While the people of color are making the dream work, you know. But yeah, I totally agree that they should have gotten more screen time. They were always working on the time machine, and like that was it. That was where they were. But you know, without them, it wouldn't have worked on either end. You know, in the present or the past for Jamie.
Yeah. I thought that, you know, Amelia's character too, like our first look at her is like, oh, she just stopped. She just stopped researching her science because she figured it out. You know, no one's figuring out how to do time travel. This is the first time it's happened in this, you know, universe that we're placed in. And like, I was curious of why. Like, why did she stop? And then her daughter is just like, oh, I'm going to pick this up and continue this work, you know? And, like, how they, and then, like, you know, when you kind of, at the end of the movie, when everyone's returned to the same dimension, like, they look more fresh. Like, you know, like, she looks so beaten down, like, the mom, like, Amelia's character just looks kind of, like, worn out. And like I was curious about like why that happened. Like maybe she had been rejected by like, you know, maybe NASA or different science like universities or anything like that to do this research. And you know, and now she looks like more fresh faced and like because she like has this like stronger bond with her daughter maybe. So I think that there's multiple things about like relationships between moms and daughters in this movie too that
I think there's also an empowerment element to it because she talks about how she never showed that notebook to anybody.
Yep. And I mean, this could just be me projecting, but I feel like for Lauren, it was like one of those instances where someone along the lines was just like, yeah, you know, you're really passionate about this thing, but why don't you just do this other thing to survive? You know, and then suddenly the thing that was supposed to be temporary to survive turned into your whole thing. So it kind of like beat out the passionate part of you that wanted to do the more far-fetched thing. So, you know, once she got caught up in that grind, she just like started to get grinded down, you know? But then when Jamie traveled back in time to like prove that like, hey, your passion project works, like it's a real thing. Like when you have that kind of encouragement or that kind of, you know, result, like I think that definitely takes a weight off your shoulders, right? It's like, oh, you know, this thing's gonna work out, so let's keep going, you know. But we don't all have the benefit of a time traveler coming back to tell us that it works out okay.
Yeah. I've been 35 years in the future. Your idea super works. Maybe that's what we need. We need a service where you can hire someone to, at some point, reassure you that your future self is super successful at something, just so you're like, all right, it will work.
That already exists. Western Union.
Western Union.
He's alive. The Doc's alive. He's in the Old West, but he's alive.
He's alive.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Always goes back to the Future. Always gotta bring it back.
As well it should.
I guess that just leaves one last question. You know, was Totally Killer worth your time?
I loved it. I had the best time watching it. I don't know if I would have found it if it wasn't for like us talking about it and talking about time travel movies. because I was looking for something that I was like, what am I going to talk about? Like what? And like, oh, there's this new movie coming out, and it just happens to be in like kind of spooky season, you know, like Halloween is coming up as of the time of this recording, and you know, I was like, why not? And I was pleasantly surprised in a lot of ways. I thought there was going to be a lot more like, I don't know, camp to it, and it was actually more like, this is a true storyline that we can follow, and it's not overly gimmicky, you know.
Yeah, they played it straight for the most part.
I would recommend it.
Likewise, I completely agree. Totally worth our time. I totally wish that Amazon would put more money behind the advertising, because like if you're gonna acquire these movies for exclusive streaming releases, you might as well promote the hell out of them.
Tell people that you have it.
Well, all right, party people, that does it for our review of Totally Killer. Again, you can watch it right now on Amazon Prime Video. You can find us on the internet. I'm at Silverio20 on Instagram, X, Threads, Blue Sky, the side of the road billboard, probably. I don't know. Everywhere. That's probably not X anymore, but you know. Thanks for ruining it, Elon Musk.
I'm Lavender Vyxn. I'm at Lavender Vyxn. That's VYXN on Instagram. I'm a very visual person, so come check me out there.
And I am at The Indecisionist on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, you know, all the meta properties. This has been an Indecisionist production. Find more information about the show, show notes, and full transcripts of every episode from Season 3 at indecisionist.com.
Cool. If you want to join in the conversation, you can use the hashtag on the platforms that still use hashtags. Hashtag time2party. That's time the number 2 party.
As well as time the number 2 party, all spelled out. Thanks, Warwick.
Yay, Warwick. And next week, we'll be coming at you with our edutainment episode, where we take a very shallow dive. Extremely shallow dive into some form of, you know, technology or some such that we found interesting from the movie. Maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you won't. But at this point, it's Schrodinger's cat, right? You'll never know until you tune in. So you got to do that. Until then, be excellent to each other.
And party on, dudes. Is your line, Lavender?
And party on, dudes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Outro music. Gentle fade.
Jurassic Park.
I just saw that the slogan for this movie is "Murder is so 1987."